Hello, sweet souls. I'm Dani Palacio, and I am grateful to be your host of Awakingmoment podcast. This is episode 34 in season 2. It is late October of 2025, and this Friday is Halloween. And we all grew up at some level understanding, knowing that Halloween maybe you were one of the blessed kids who got homemade costumes and Halloween parties. Maybe you were the kid next door that didn't celebrate Halloween and wondered why all these kids were dressing up like ghosts and goblins and witches and fairies. Or maybe you're not from America and Halloween is not that big of a deal. Maybe it's not even recognized in your country. Whatever the case may be, I felt called because when I sat down and I said, okay, Spirit, connecting to the greater consciousness of all, what topic should I talk about in this episode? It started with Halloween, and I was like, really? Because to be honest, I don't dress up. I rarely give candy, but Samhain, the pagan holiday that falls on the same holiday as Halloween, because long history there. Let me just quickly share that a lot of times pagan holidays, ancient holidays from earth-based spirituality were taken over by the Catholic Church or by religion in itself and renamed, redone, respun, right? So Halloween or Samhain is the same. And I want to wish you a really wonderful New Year's because in the traditional perspective, Halloween is basically our New Year's Eve and November 1st is the first day of the new year. And so we want to honor the cycle of that because even though we may have commercialized it, it's still a very potent, powerful time of the year. And what I mean by that, if you've heard of a phrase or someone saying, oh, well, the veil is getting thinner and thinner the closer we get to October 31st. What does that mean? It means that if you live in a logic, intellectual world, it doesn't mean much, to be honest. If you live in the world of possibility and magic and potential, and you believe that there is a God, a creator, a divine of any kind, really, then it's more important because it's honoring a transitional point, much like fall equinox or summer solstice. Coming up, we're going to have winter solstice, which is close to Christmas. And when the veil becomes thin, it means that the world of the seen and the world of the unseen is way more available. And it merges into the Mexican tradition of Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, because it's often on November 1st or 2nd. And so if you think about us moving closer and closer to the veil, we can see through it, and our ancestors can see us more. Now, I believe that our ancestors are with us all the time because we hold their blood, their DNA in us. But I've also had pretty powerful evenings around Halloween and within that week, within the week that it is this week, where I start to dream about my relatives more. I start to feel into the great beyond, the bigger part of what we don't see or acknowledge regularly. And it's a really powerful time to transform, to renegotiate soul contracts, to step into the mystical, magical potential possibility of what we were given when we incarnated and what our souls are in alignment with. And not only that, but that have committed to being something. And so on the honoring of all of those that have come before us, I want to encourage you to do something about that. I've talked about it before, but I love altars. I have several of them around my house, and so have fun with it. In the Day of the Dead, you create an altar of your ancestors. You put pictures out and you decorate with colorful flowers and magnolias. Magnolias, what am I thinking? That's like a spring flower. Marigolds. That's the flower. The beautiful bright orange marigold. And you can also use white to bring peace and innocence in. And black is also very appropriate because it is the unseen. So if it's not flowers or pictures of your ancestors, it could just be an altar of gratitude for the ability to commune with our ancestors. And that can look like anything. That can be a candle lit, that can be some simple crystals, that can be a letter that you've written to your ancestors and placed on a special table. And so, whatever you're called to, trust that intuitive knowingness. Don't second guess it. Don't say, oh, that's silly. No, whatever that first inclination of, oh, I want to do this. And maybe it's you want to bake cookies. Maybe it's you want to have a special meal. Maybe it's you want to talk to an aunt or an uncle or a cousin about a family member. And so, whatever that is, I want to encourage you to do it. All right. And moving even more into the unseen, I want to talk about the ancient ones. Not a lot of people talk about the ancient ones. And I want to talk about my perspective of the ancient ones. And then I'll share a little bit more of the more written, documented, if you will, on blogs and books and from other spiritual people. And so the ancient ones came into my life in awareness, probably in my early 30s. And so I've been aware of them for quite a long time. But they came charging back in when I was in Norway a couple of years ago for my birthday. And my goodness, it was a simple sighting of a jellyfish. And it really shouldn't have been there in a lot of ways. But here I was just sitting in quiet, looking out at the water and the beauty and the trees and finding my center again, finding that place within me that had just been a really, really busy tourist and had enjoyed Norway and all of its beauty, its food, its people, its culture, its history. And I was sitting quietly reflecting, and I opened my eyes and I looked out into the water and I looked down into the water, and there was this gorgeous jellyfish, and it was cloudy, clear with like red, I'll say speckles for lack of a better word. And I looked at it and I burst into tears. And I was like, well, what kind of reaction is that? I know that when that happens for me, I always say a little prayer and just ask that my higher self, my soul, helps me understand what is significant about this jellyfish. And it turns out it's the ancient ones. That's what I heard. In my heart of hearts, that's what I heard. We are the ancient ones, and we have come to stand with you. We have come to witness you and to remind you that you are never alone. That was the full message. So I was so grateful. And I sat with that and I prayed about that and I took walks and pondered it, because what does that mean? So you can define the ancient ones as the ancestors that are beyond the ancestors. And they're the original creators, really, the divine sparks and force of creation. And they can also be seen as transcendent spiritual guides to help observe and acknowledge your growth. And that's exactly what happened in that moment, is that I had grown. And now that it's been a couple years, I know that I have greatly expanded. I am not that same woman that went to Norway. I am not that same woman that worked at a big corporate American business. I'm not even the same woman that opened up her own healing space in a spa. I'm none of those people anymore. And every day I shift and change. And I think we all do. And our lineage, our ancestors, the ancient ones, the forces of nature, all witness, support, and encourage. And this is the time that we can truly commune with those spirits. And so one of the rituals is to create a meal and put out a plate for your ancestors so that when they are hungry and they need nourishment, they have food to get. And is it literal that they're going to eat the food? Probably not. But if you put it out in nature, some little creature is going to eat it. It's something fun to think about. And I bring all of this up because the month of September, from late August all the way to late September, was the Virgo season. And we had a couple eclipses. Now, if you don't follow that, that's okay. But I mention it because eclipse energy is transformative and it's intense a lot of times. And it was for me because I always had to control things to feel safe. I always had to fill in the blank to feel wanted. I always had to fill in the blank because I didn't want to be abandoned. I always had to fill in the blank because I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I always had to be chosen first, not last, to know that I was important. And those types of sentences, those kinds of thoughts, I think we all feel at some level. And they're different for everyone, by the way. But some version of that is instilled within us because of how we were raised, how we took in big information in our pure, innocent minds of a child and had to process or not process or make them into something so that we could survive. Because inherently, that is the core frequency of this human incarnation, is to survive, is to make it, is to persevere, even when we feel like we can't. And so I share that because when we move through change, and I think on one of the most recent episodes, I talked about identity and how the brain, it only works with the identity it knows. And sometimes we have to inject a new identity into our brain's knowingness and feel it, live it as so, and be that new identity. Repetition with emotion creates new patterns. So this is a beautiful time to sit down and ask yourself, who are my ancestors? What unseen forces are loving me, supporting me, witnessing me for my greatest, most beautiful expansion and growth of self? And that's caused me to reflect on what in terms of attachment styles, in terms of the patterns that we create and the beliefs that we hold to create our personality. And I'm struggling, you guys. I'm struggling big time because I gave up. That is such a old story. Let me just back up there. During the eclipse season, it became very painfully clear to me that my control mechanisms were not benefiting me anymore. The level of control I felt like I needed to have was reinforced and even celebrated in my corporate job. And even in my family, making sure there's a plan, making sure that I'm present, making sure that I am reliable. That's all a portion of control. And so I unwove that. I believe in weaving and the concept of weaving, and that we are a beautiful tapestry. And in that tapestry is all the threads, and they're woven in certain patterns with certain colors during certain experiences. And our whole life is on this tapestry. And we do get to unweave a thread, unweave a section, and recreate it. I believe that wholeheartedly. And again, our ancestors are there because their threads are part of our tapestry as well. And so we can create a new pattern within the tapestry. We can shift it if we are so willing. And I want to encourage you to be willing, because I have changed. I try to continually look at where I'm still trying to be in control. And they come in forms not only in my own life with what am I eating and how much am I eating, and the control of whether or not I meet or don't meet certain societal expectations of all the labels that are put on me. And I experience them more intensely in relationship. And that includes friendships, potential partners, business relationship, obviously friends. And because all of those people are reflections back to me. What are they trying to show me? What is the lesson I meant to learn? So we can go through life and never look at it like that. We can just go through life and people come, people go, and we never ask what the lesson was, what the reflection was trying to show us. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity, because there's a spiritual, this is going to get a little woo-woo, so hang in there, you guys. There's a spiritual concept of we are one, we are everything, and two, we are the only ones that exist. And the idea is that the world and everyone in it has been created and placed in our path because it is what we most need. It is part of our divine path. It is part of learning our lessons, evolving, growing, becoming more than we thought we could be. It's kind of a simple thought, which is if I'm the only one that exists, then I'm the only one who can change. I'm the only one who can give me everything I want, everything I think I need. And it ties so beautifully into psychology around attachment styles and personality patterns and I'm reading a lot of that right now, which I actually hope to do a podcast on it because it's really supporting me in asking those deeper questions. Because once I let go of the idea of control and I started to ask my brain to recognize that I'm an open, flowing, giving woman, a new identity. I think I was all of that, to be honest with you, but I wasn't in the flow as much as I could have been because I had an agenda. I had a plan. And now that I think that those things are good, you guys. I mean, it can be so helpful to have a plan, but to be so rigid, to be stuck in the plan is what is damaging, not only to yourself, but to everyone else that's connected to it. And so you always have to ask yourself, why? Why did I have a plan? What was my intent? And living in the intent is more important than finishing the plan or the schedule or the anything. So that's another question for you to sit with. What is my intent? If you know that you control a lot of things, and for you moms and dads out there, you have to at some level be organized and have a schedule because it could turn into mayhem, total chaos, right? I get that. But in your own personal life, what are you so in control of where you are critical about yourself, where you are putting yourself down, where your inner critic is saying, you're such a loser. How could you not do that? You're so lazy. That's ridiculous. That was so simple to do. And the beratement keeps going and going. A lot of times, particularly for women, but also for men, it has a lot to do with our beauty, our bodies, and the concept and the stereotypical societal conditioning of what is beautiful. I'm telling you right here, right now, it's a major I'm just going to say it's a major mind fuck. I don't swear on the podcast that much. I think I've only done it a couple times, but that felt like it was warranted. Because here we are, free spirit, sovereign beings, being controlled by a society, an energy that is in group thought. That is not why we're here, to live up to what society says is appropriate or not appropriate or beautiful or not. Whew, we got a lot of unpacking to do, you guys. And this week is extra potent. This week, magic is more available because we're moving into a thinner veil. We're moving into that ritual and that love of ancestors and we're honoring where we have come from and who we are. So who are you? This is a great week to ask that question. The part that I struggle with is I watch myself shift because now I have awareness. I no longer have the thread in the tapestry of a control freak, but I see the thread. I still see it. And now I can observe it. Now I'm aware of it. And I don't like it. And it makes me sometimes not like the person that's showing me where I'm still in control mode. And it's not really about them, is it? It's about me and why I do that to myself. And everything in me says, we're not going to do it anymore. You know what? There's a level of freedom that is starting to really bloom inside of me where I don't have to say the right thing. I don't have to placate somebody's whatever. I don't have to always be that nice person. I typically am. I think it's part of my core nature to be kind. I know I'm extremely generous and I know that I love quickly and easily. And there's a part of me that is scared to own that. Because who would I be if I fully owned it? And for the friends that listen to this podcast, you're like, she's already so loving, but there's more available. And I'm starting to really feel that. So I share all of this because this podcast is for all of us to own our truth. And I believe that raw vulnerability and sharing what is happening and going on in my own process will hopefully spark a moment for you. And maybe you'll make a shift or a change, or you'll come into awareness around something. And it's a lot of work. I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. And if you need support, I am here, obviously. Sessions can be in remote or they can be in person. And you can learn more at my website. And I'll put the link right here, olaamorco.com. And I want to thank you for tuning in again and having this experience touch your lives in any way that it can. So thank you. Many blessings. Please share and like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It will make it easy for you to stay connected to me and my podcast episodes. And it really helps broaden my experience and reach to others. So thank you again. Blessings.